Tonight, donations are pouring in for the Saskatoon student and teacher who were seriously hurt last week in an assault at Evan Hardy High School. Taking matters into their own hands, an unsanctioned bike lane has popped up in Saskatoon at one of the city's busiest cycling and pedestrian crossings.
I'm not Jamaican.
Finding family history, how a DNA test helped this woman from Ocean Man First Nation make a surprising discovery.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It's Monday, September 9th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thank you for watching. Relatives of the 15-year-old girl set on fire in a Saskatoon high school last week say she is recovering at an Edmonton hospital. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of dollars has been raised to help her family with expenses. Jason Warwick has the latest.
Purple signs, flowers, stuffed animals. This display in front of Saskatoon's Evan Hardy Collegiate continues to grow, a show of support for their 15-year-old classmate. This, even though the high school stayed closed to students on Monday. According to witnesses, a 14-year-old girl poured flammable liquid on the 15-year-old and lit her on fire. It happened last Thursday at the school over the noon hour. Students, teachers, and a police resource officer who was on scene all helped to extinguish the fire. The student and a teacher who rushed to help have been taken to hospital. We don't know the exact condition of the teacher, but the student in question has been taken to hospital in Edmonton now. Relatives tell me they're grateful for all the support. More than $60,000 has been raised through an online campaign. It will be used for the family's expenses, which include travel to and from Edmonton. A second GoFundMe has been set up for the teacher recovering. It has also raised more than $23,000. The president of Saskatchewan's Teachers Federation says they're thinking about the victim, the teacher, and all of those affected. Samantha Beacott says it's hit everyone hard.
I have had a couple conversations with staff members there in the building, and everyone is still very shaken up, as well as teachers across the province are really struggling with the news of the incident that happened last week.
Evan Hardy Collegiate was closed to students on Friday and again on Monday. On those days, Saskatoon Public Schools offered counseling services to students and staff affected by the event. That support will continue when students return to class on Tuesday morning. Saskatchewan's education minister says student safety is a top priority.
You know, it's certainly, that'd be a discussion I'd be happy to have going forward with school divisions. I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of one of those things where it's a kind of a joint decision with school division and Ministry of Education, but certainly a discussion that we'd be open to as a government. And again, making sure that students can be safe and so that incidents like this can be prevented going forward.
The 14-year-old accused in the assault was taken into custody last Thursday. She faces 3 charges, including arson and attempted murder. Her next court appearance is scheduled for Wednesday in Saskatoon. In the meantime, supporters of the girl and the teacher are encouraging everyone to wear purple at school on Tuesday as a show of support. Jason Warwick, CBC News, Saskatoon.
After much debate and demand, the province has announced the site location of 2 new schools in Regina. A joint-use elementary school and a joint-use high school will be built in the town's neighborhood. They will be shared and operated both by Regina's public and Catholic school divisions. The elementary school will accommodate up to 1,400 students, 800 for public, 600 for Catholic, and the high school will have room for 2,000 students. The education minister says he's hoping shovels will be in the ground as soon as possible.
We know that this is a growing part of the city. We know this is a growing city and a very quickly growing province. And so we're trying to respond to that as quickly as we can and advance these projects as quickly as we can.
And we happen to own this land, and so being able to deliver on a promise that I think it's been, the Eastside High School has been on the list for well over a decade. And so being able to deliver the land for that and to have the province come to the table and understand the importance of it has been exceptional. What was surprising, I think, in the last 4 years was the request for another joint-use elementary school, but hats off to both school boards. I know Sean and Sarah both do exceptional advocacy work, but it was almost, it's as important as the high school now, given the growth on the east side of the city.
The new builds will also provide 180 new childcare spaces. The allocation of those spaces is still being determined. Cockrell says he's working with the city to come up with designs. There is no announced timeline for completion. Saskatoon police are investigating another fatal collision with a cyclist. Police responded around 8:45 p.m. Sunday night to 22nd Street West and Avenue K North. The woman was taken to hospital where she later died. Police are still trying to identify her. They believe she was traveling eastbound in the westbound lanes of 22nd and that the driver was in the far right westbound lanes. Anyone with potential information is asked to contact Saskatoon police. Now, that fatality is not the first involving a cyclist in Saskatoon. The city is under pressure to construct bike lanes on a busy street where a young mother was killed last year. And while some safety measures are in the works, it's not happening fast enough for others. Dane Patterson has more.
It's not what the city planned, but this line of paint and rectangular working as an apparent substitute. An unsanctioned bike lane by someone who decided to take matters into their own hands. Here at one of, if not the busiest, cycling and pedestrian crossings in Saskatoon.
Someone came by with a can of spray paint and put in a bike lane at College at Wiggins.
A video describing the change from a local group found traction online.
I was really encouraging the response from that video, seeing how many people are kind of on that same page, that we do want more safety and that demand for ways to get around that aren't just cars, biking, walking, transit is really huge and unmet, and that's a big opportunity here.
The bike box sits beside a memorial, recognizing 33-year-old cyclist Natasha Fox. In May last year, she was struck and killed by a cement truck at this intersection. Police did not lay charges against the driver in her death. Nearly a year after her death, Saskatoon City Councilors voted to install a bike lane and box to improve safety, as well as prohibit right turns on a red light. The city's bike lane and box are still being designed, and changes aren't expected until mid-October. The city says, while seemingly well-intentioned, the lines painted on the road are not city-designed and could pose an eventual risk to cyclists. Fox's father, Doug Cramble, says it may not be perfect, but it's better than nothing.
It's a little bit of paint, and if we could get a couple of pylons to protect the bike lane, maybe that would save somebody's life. Maybe for a few $1,000s, we could have saved my daughter's life last year.
It's unclear who drew up the basic bike lane, but Cramble has a message for them.
You can't prove a negative. We don't know if it's maybe already prevented an accident or an injury. But thanks for trying. Thanks for caring.
The Saskatoon Police Service says this would be considered mischief, but it has yet to receive a report about it. Dane Patterson, CBC News, Saskatoon.
3 years ago today, 9-year-old Bailey Maurice died after she was hit by a car while riding her scooter in Saskatoon. Maurice died as a result, and the driver was accused of impaired driving. Gathering on the anniversary is helping the community grieve. On Sunday, friends and family walked in her honor at the 3rd annual Memorial March for Bailey Maurice. It started at a crosswalk on 33rd Street West and Avenue G, a crosswalk that the city has installed since the incident.
That's why this crosswalk is so important, so no other children can be taken away from us before their time. She was known a lot for her smile, and so, you know, we see her little friends and how much they've grown over the years, and it hurts, but it's a beautiful thing to witness, you know, her friends growing up and wondering what life could be like if she was still around and what she'd be doing today, because she has touched the hearts of a lot of people within this community.
I've done my best to try and support families because I know a lot of times it just feels like you're all alone, that there's nobody out there and you don't know where to go and you don't know who to turn to. And so I find it really, really, really important to come to gatherings like this to support Bailey's family.
Many people wore blue to honor Maurice. The Memorial March ended at her favorite park, and afterward a feast was held there with drumming and the burning of sweetgrass. The family continues to seek justice in court. The woman who allegedly struck Maurice has been charged with impaired driving causing death. Her trial remains before the courts. A memorandum of understanding was signed today by the City of Regina and First Nations University. The goal is to promote Indigenous education and cultural competency in the city.
We proceed with listening to both sides, both sides contributing equally so that within time and in the future, both sides will benefit in some way, form, or shape. So I truly believe in this partnership that's being formed, and I support it.
Mayor Sandra Masters says the signing is an important step forward in the city's efforts to advance reconciliation. The signing was to formalize a shared vision between the city and the university about enhancing community well-being as well as education and employment opportunities. Masters says this gives the city actionable items and resources to develop relationships and to encourage change. 2 men have been sentenced to 6.5 years in prison for their roles in the 2022 border blockade in Coutts, Alberta. It was one of several across the country protesting COVID-19 rules and vaccine mandates. Chris Carbert was convicted of public mischief and possessing a firearm dangerous to the public peace. Anthony Olenek received the same sentence on the same charges and was also convicted of possessing a pipe bomb. A jury had found them not guilty of the most serious charge they faced, conspiracy to murder police officers. Neither man will have to serve their full sentence. Both were credited for time spent in custody. It was a really hot day for those who set out to take part in the annual Queen City Marathon over the weekend. Thousands of runners out to finish 10K, a half or full marathon in well over 30-degree heat. Not only did some runners set personal bests, but the weather also smashed some records as well, though not the Queen City itself. Ethan will have the details after the break in your forecast. Stay with us. Welcome back. A woman from Ocean Man First Nation says she struggled with self-acceptance for years, not knowing her father or the details of his background. But thanks to a DNA test, she's now met her relatives and says it's brought her peace and healing.
People could tell that I wasn't quite Indigenous, but they also couldn't really tell exactly what I was. And myself too, I had no idea. My mom had told me I was half Jamaican, but that was wrong.
I'm not Jamaican. I'm North African and Somali.
Well, growing up on the Ocean Man First Nation, I was very sheltered from a lot of people. I always wanted to know what I was, where I was from. I wanted to know where my people came from. I wanted to know maybe I was just Indigenous and I was just darker skinned and I didn't know all this time. I was hanging out with my friend one night and she had showed me her DNA test and I was like, wow, I really need to do this. It turns out that I found out exactly who I am, where I come from, right down to the tribes. I had looked a little further into the app and I found that I had a little sister. We're 1.5 years apart, so I immediately messaged her and we had got to talking, and once we got into contact with our uncles, they were very excited. They paid for our flights to go visit them. So when I arrived, my sister and my uncle were waiting, and we had a big hug. When we got back to the house, they had a supper and a meal waiting for me. My grandmother, when she realized what was happening, she came back out and started. We all hugged. It was really heartwarming to know that I was wanted. That I was loved and that I was accepted. It definitely raised my self-esteem to know that I'm not unwanted and I'm not this unwanted, unlovable person that my father had just left. It's almost like I see myself as a whole person now.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. Employee pricing is on now.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. Holy hot Sunday.
Hot Sunday, Hot Saturday. Yeah, this weekend as a whole was very hot across the country, across the province, and specifically in South and Central Saskatchewan. You saw those runners out there at the QCM just before the break. Yeah, a lot of sweat coming off of those runners for sure over that course of that marathon. Some of that well into the afternoon. Now those temperatures, breaking records in some places. This is from Saturday and Sunday across the province. Hottest records there, 35.1 degrees in Watrous and Lucky Lake. Interestingly enough, this is still a couple or a few degrees away from all-time September temperature records, and in many cases we actually have been even hotter a little bit later into September in these places. So yes, it's quite hot, but has been hotter, and even today still continuing that heat through many areas, getting up into the mid-30s for some of us. Note this cold front though that's starting to move in, and that is really dropping off temperatures in parts of west central and northwestern Saskatchewan, and that is one part of kind of why temperatures are going to be dropping over these next couple of days. We have this developing trough in the jet stream, and that's not only going to drop temperatures, but it's going to make things a little more unsettled for us as well. So part of this is this low pressure system, which is bringing rain to the Northwest Territories. There's the cold front. It continues slicing through overnight tonight. We may get some showers or rumbles of thunder in Saskatoon and west central Saskatchewan as a result. It's out of here pretty much by tomorrow afternoon, and in behind that is high pressure. So we get some clearing skies for tomorrow with those cooler temperatures. But then that moves out pretty quickly, and into Wednesday morning, the cloud cover moves back in. We get some showers, and that is in advance of our next weather maker, this low pressure system moving up from the States, which is going to bring through bands of moisture pretty much through the province. Again, that'll really get going on Thursday, and as it does, we'll start to see rainfall pick up, maybe a good 5 to 15 millimeters or locally heavier amounts as a result of that system moving through. Now that front, as it moves from west to east tonight, it's going to pick up the winds, and tomorrow we're expecting a bit of a gusty day, especially in eastern sections and especially closer to the center of that low pressure in far northern Saskatchewan. Then the next system moving up from the States is going to pick up the winds again. So expect things to be a little bit breezy through these next few days. But what that wind is going to do is it's going to flush out the smoke that we've seen in some areas, including in Saskatoon and Prince Albert today. That's out of here by tomorrow morning, but then the system from the States is going to bring up smoke from fires that are burning in Idaho and Oregon as we get into early Wednesday morning and into the first part of Wednesday afternoon. But in terms of our temperatures, big drop tomorrow for Regina. Winds staying breezy these next couple of days. There's that system that could also bring some isolated thunderstorms Thursday. And then we're back into the sunshine for the weekend, but things staying a bit on the breezy side. But you note there, our temperatures actually going back up again. Saskatoon, maybe some showers tomorrow morning before things clear out tomorrow afternoon. A nice day Wednesday, and then there's that system probably lingering into Friday for you, and then return to even above seasonal temperatures for the weekend and into next week. So a little bit of an end to the summer heat, Sam, but things overall staying above seasonal.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
Well, this felt like deja vu as the game came down to a field goal attempt in the final minutes. The Green and White went to Winnipeg over the weekend hoping to avenge the Labor Day Classic. Instead, they walked away with another loss, 26-21, their 7th winless game in a row. The victory moves the Bombers into a share of the top spot in the West Division with BC. The Riders hanging out in 3rd, and they will have a lot to think about on their week off. When they come back from their bye week, the Riders will be in Calgary on Friday, September 20th. We'll be back after the break. An Ontario judge has sentenced former fashion mogul Peter Nyard to 11 years in prison. Nyard was convicted last November on 4 counts of sexual assault. Jamie Strachan has the latest.
Justice Robert Goldstein called disgraced fashion mogul Peter Nyard a sexual predator who used his position of power and wealth to take advantage of women, calling it a Canadian success story gone very wrong.
Justice Goldstein sentenced Mr. Nyard accordingly and found him to have committed these sexual assaults in a way that makes him, as we have been saying, recognizes the description of him as a sexual predator.
In the sentencing, the judge called Nyard a narcissist who felt entitled to do whatever he wanted. Nyard was convicted of sexually assaulting 4 women in the private bedroom of his Toronto fashion headquarters between the 1980s and mid-2000s. One was just 16. Victims advocate Shannon Maroney read a statement from one of the women.
We did this to ensure every victim of sexual assault will remember this trial and feel the strength and confidence to come forward and not be threatened by social status or money.
Dozens of women from around the world have alleged they were assaulted by Nyard. He faces charges in Manitoba, Quebec, and the United States. Some of those alleged victims were here in court for the sentencing.
Many of us have waited for this day for quite a few years. For me, I'm a 21-year survivor. I've been waiting for this day for 21 years.
The 83-year-old wore a black Canada Goose parka with a hood over his head, his bearded face shielded by a visor. He declined to address the court. The judge mostly rejected calls for leniency based on Nyard's age and failing health. Nyard's lawyer promises to appeal the conviction and the sentence.
So he's just going to continue to defend himself where he can, appeal where he can, and continue to maintain his innocence in all of these matters.
For Nyard, this marks the end of a stunning fall. Once a rich and powerful player in the fashion world, now likely to spend his final years in prison. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather.
And it'll be a warm one this evening after a hot day in Regina. Temperature of around 19 at midnight. Partly cloudy skies, but we should start to see things clear out for tomorrow morning, although keep in mind those southerly winds starting to pick up a little bit, and we're not going to go much higher than that. We get into the afternoon, low 20s, maybe mid-20s is where we're going to get to, although lots of sunshine, winds shifting to the northwest, but we should see the forest fire smoke get out of here pretty quickly. Saskatoon, again, those winds already starting to pick up now, and they'll be gusting through the night tonight, and again, that'll be a theme tomorrow morning. We do have a chance of some lingering showers and thunderstorms by the 8 o'clock hour, but into the afternoon, things clearing out pretty quickly. We're looking for a temperature of around 19. We'll probably get just above 20 degrees with a little bit of some gusty winds here and there. Sam.
It's a pretty nice day. Thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
And before we go tonight, a big day for the Kramer IMAX Theatre in Regina. The province is giving them $500,000 to help them buy a new projection system.
An investment in the Science Centre and the Kramer IMAX Theatre is critically important because technology evolves. And as we evolve as an organization, in order to continue showing great films in this province, we need to have the best technologies.
What they're buying is called an IMAX GT dual laser digital projection system. It will allow the Science Centre to continue to offer giant screen educational documentary films and feature films well into the future. The event held today by Creative Saskatchewan and the provincial government also highlighted trailers and clips from 13 productions filmed recently in the province. And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask or /Saskatoon. You can subscribe to CBC Saskatchewan's YouTube channel or download the CBC News app on your phone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.